Okay, well, good morning, everybody. It is 11 o'clock, and so we are going to go ahead and get started with our webinar training today. So I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for being here. My name is Amy Jewett, and I am the Invasive Species Coordinator at the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy and the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program. And I also have with me today Kirsten Carlson, who is also with Western PA Conservancy and the Heritage Program as well. And she will be helping to answer questions during the webinar as well as at the end. So thanks, Kirsten, for also being a part of today's training. Yeah, as I mentioned, Kirsten will be helping to answer questions. So just want to mention prior to getting started with the training today that if anyone does have a question as we go through, please feel free to use the Q&A or the chat. Either are available. I don't think we have a preference, either one you use, so feel free to use either one. And then we also will take some time at the very end to also answer some questions at that time via Q&A or through the chat. So without any further ado, we will go ahead and get started with today's training and be talking about the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge. So the challenge event is actually now in its 5th year. It started in 2017, and this is actually a program that the New York iMapInvasives program kind of started, and we picked it up here and have been running it in Pennsylvania as well. So we're excited to be in our 5th year for this event. And I believe some of you have participated in this event before, and so welcome again. This will just kind of be a refresher for you for the information we'll be covering today. But for those of you who are new to this event, I do want to make sure that I go over the details and kind of the overall goals and purpose of what the challenge is all about. So one of the main goals and purposes of the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge is to be able to identify locations in Pennsylvania that have new water chestnut infestations. Water chestnut is a early detection / high priority species in Pennsylvania because even though it is found in our state, it's not completely widespread yet. And so we do want to make sure that we're keeping on top of where the species is being found. And this is one way to do that, to have events like this, and to encourage people to go out and be surveying for this species. And then along with, better understanding where water chestnut is being found, we want to then be able to discern the areas that require treatment of some sort, because ultimately the goal of documenting this species is to then encourage, natural resource professionals and others to actually go out and, hand pool or, do some kind of treatment to try to actually get rid of this species that we are finding in different locations. Just in general, there's a lot of different programs and initiatives that have the goal of trying to detect this species and also other aquatic invasive species as well, with the goal of trying to prevent or slow their spread. And in combination with that, raising awareness of the harm that's caused by invasive species. And so the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge is certainly another program that's aiming to do that by raising awareness of this species. Ultimately, we hope to educate people to also be looking for it, which will then hopefully help to identify other locations and slow its spread to other places. And we will be using the iMapInvasives program, which is a free-to-use online invasive species tracking system that all participants will be recording their information in that they're finding, both presence and absence information. So we'll be gathering data that way and then dispersing it out afterwards once the challenge is over. So it's a really nice tool to use for that purpose. So here's what you need to know in order to participate in the challenge: the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So the who is all of you, the folks that are on today's training. You'll be the folks that are hopefully out participating out in the field, searching for this species. And you'll be using whatever technology you choose, whether that's a smartphone, a tablet, or a desktop or laptop computer, to record what you're finding, again, presence or absence information. So searching for water chestnut, you'll have the entire month of July to go out and search. So starting this Thursday till July 31st. You'll have that much time. And you'll be recording your information in iMapInvasives. And the why, again, kind of talking about this a little bit, but water chestnut is, a species we want to keep tabs on in Pennsylvania. It's not everywhere yet, thankfully. And hopefully by having events like this, we are recognizing that it's an important species to hopefully be encouraging more people to be managing. But it also causes harm to our native wildlife and the places where they call home. And also to us, it will hinder recreational activities. So boating and fishing and swimming and all those sorts of things that we enjoy doing now that it's summertime. We like to get out on the water. And unfortunately, water bodies that have dense populations of water chestnut really hinder those types of recreational activities. So the how of how you'll go out and survey. So there's the option to walk along a shoreline and just visually search that way. Or if you have access to a canoe or a kayak, you can go out on a day where it's really hot and get in the water, just be out there and searching for water chestnut that way. So there's a few ways that you can be out searching for this plant. So iMapInvasives, again, as I mentioned before, is a really valuable tool for this kind of event because, again, it's a pretty easy to use platform. It's free to the public. All you have to do is sign up for a registered user account, which I'll talk about here in a little bit in case those of you that are new to this event, you don't have an account already with the program. But there's some kind of basic information that, of course, is very valuable to know. And with iMapInvasives, it will capture that information and then we'll have that to view later on. So we can know the specific places where each of you are going out and finding water chestnut, or to know where it's been reported previously, because we certainly do have a good bit of data for this species already in iMapInvasives. We can also know the precise observation dates, so we can get a sense of if a record is historical or if it is been found more recently. And we can also know the person as well as their affiliated organization who is responsible for finding a particular plant or a population at a certain location. So in addition to presence and absence information, just for your reference, iMapInvasives does have the ability to record treatment data as well. So management or manual hand pooling, all of that is information that can be recorded in IMAP, so we can get a sense of these places maybe where water chestnut is and any work that's been done to try to manage it. And then once information is in the platform, it is very easy for me or anyone else who has a registered user account to go in and do a data filter or a data query and look at that information as you desire. And also, if you'd like to download it, there's the option to also download information in the form of a spreadsheet or in a GIS geodatabase. That's also some options. So again, there's a lot of value to the program, and one of the reasons why we find a lot of benefits in using it for this purpose. So water chestnut has been found in Pennsylvania previously, and here's a look at the places, the counties where it has been found according to data that we've got in iMapInvasives currently. 13 counties total. Most of them are in the eastern part of the state and just a few are out in the western part. I do want to mention though that just because certain counties aren't highlighted doesn't mean that there may not be a population of water chestnut there. Maybe it just hasn't been found yet. And so it's really important to make sure that if you're able to go out and search in some of these other counties that are not highlighted on the map, to make sure that we have a good, thorough survey that's happening as much statewide as possible. But don't feel like you have to limit yourself to just the counties that are highlighted here in blue. Certainly any counties are up for grabs, and you never know what you might find. And that's one of the purposes of this event, is to try to get a better understanding of where this species might be at. So I want to take some time, again, for those of you that are new to this event or have never seen this species before, I do want to take some time and go over some tips and identification information for how to identify this particular species. And I have a lot of visuals in here, so hopefully that'll help to kind of paint a better picture of what this species really looks like. So water chestnut Trapa natans is a rooted aquatic plant, and it's not the same kind as the water chestnut that you might find if you enjoy Chinese food. So that's actually a little bit different. But this species can really take over a lot of freshwater water body settings. So ponds and shallow lakes, and even flowing water bodies like rivers and streams. And it is able to grow in these really thick, dense colonies. And some of the photos that I'll keep going through here and I'll show you, you'll see how it can do that quite easily, unfortunately. And it can grow to be up to 16 feet in length. And very often you don't actually see the entire length of the plant. Generally, you only see that floating rosette on the water surface. And the stems and the roots of the plant are actually, underneath of it in the water. And so if you would pull that plant out, you'll really see that it is very, very long, and you pull and you pull and you pull, and it keeps coming and coming and coming. So there's a lot of it that generally is actually hidden beneath the surface that you may not see as easily. Here in this photo, you can actually see some of the stems and roots here. So that kind of gives you an idea of the biology of this plant. So water chestnut is not native to North America. It's actually indigenous to Europe, Asia, and Africa. And in the 1800s, it was brought over to the States by water gardeners. And unfortunately, from there, it did establish. And one of the first places that it was found in the United States was Massachusetts. So currently in North America, Pennsylvania is not the only state, and in addition to Massachusetts, of course, as I mentioned, these are not the only states where water chestnut has been found. It has spread to other states and parts of Canada as well. But as far as we know, according to documented information, it's only been found in this eastern part of the continent so far. Thankfully, it's not been found in other locations, at least as far as we know. So this is the known distribution at this point in time. So the leaves of water chestnut will come in two forms, floating and submersed. And so the floating leaves, as you can see here in these two photos, are triangular in shape, and they have these margins that look like they have teeth on them. So the margins of the leaves are not smooth. They definitely have serrations on them. And the plant itself is just a big floating rosette, essentially. And so it's pretty easy to identify. The leaves are also very glossy and shiny. And if you would flip the plant over and look on the underside of the leaves on the bottom part of the plant have these little hairs on them, these little soft hairs. So obviously, as we've seen, water chestnut is able to float on the water surface. And the way that it does that is with these bladders, these inflated bladders that it has, as you can see here in these images, that are connected to long stems called petioles. And the petioles then connect the leaves of the rosette to the submersed section of the plant, or the stems and the roots. So water chestnut does produce a flower. It is very small. It's white and it has 4 petals. And that flower is located in the center of that rosette part of the plant. And one of the reasons that we like to have the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge occur in July is because these flowers will appear in the middle to later part of the month. So that's one more distinguishing characteristic that you can look for when you're out searching for this species. And in this photo, there's just 1 flower. Here you can see in this image, there's 2. So you can, look and you'll maybe see both situations depending on if you actually find this plant. And then here's a close-up image of that flower. So water chestnut will produce these nutlets. That's what it needs in order to, one of the ways it needs to reproduce. And they have these little projections on them. And this image, you can see there's 3, but there's actually 4 total. And this one is still connected to the plants. And here in this image, you can see the nutlets have, separated from the parent plant. But you want to be very careful if you're in an area that has a known population of water chestnut and you see these nutlets, you do not want to step on them because these little points on the nutlets are incredibly sharp and they can penetrate right through your shoes and get you. So just be very careful about that. Be careful where you're walking as you are out surveying. Also, just want to mention, so you will see, depending on if you find this plant out in different areas, you will find that some nutlets can be green or some can be brown or black. And the green to brown nutlets are the ones that are reproductively viable. And the black nutlets, the ones that will float, are generally not reproductively viable. However, it's still important, I would say, just for purposes of this event, to report both. So even if you don't find an actual water chestnut plant and all you find are these nutlets, it's still an indication that a population is likely somewhat nearby or at least had been in the past. And so it's still important information to capture. So again, even if you don't find the plant, still feel free to report if you are seeing these nutlets, and they are pretty distinctive. So if you see these, you can bet that they are coming from a water chestnut plant. So the stems and roots of water chestnut has these, the stems have these finely branched roots that will develop along the lower part of the stem. And these will essentially assist the plant to anchor itself to the substrate. So in this photo here, you can see someone pulled a water chestnut plant out of the water. And this rosette is generally the part that you would see on the surface, and all of this stuff is under the surface that you don't normally see unless you pull that plant out. So you can see there's a lot to it if you pull it out of the water. So water chestnut does have a high reproductive rate, unfortunately. Each plant can produce up to 15 nuts per growing season. And each nut, if it has the ability to, can actually sink to the bottom of a water body and remain there for up to 12 years and still be viable for that entire time. So unfortunately, even in cases where, places, that do hand pulling of water chestnut, getting the plants on the water surface, if there's seeds at the bottom of the substrate, that population will continue to exist if those seeds are viable. So unfortunately, management for this species can be difficult for that reason, but that doesn't mean that, pooling those plants isn't helpful, because certainly it is. It is decreasing the population little by little. But just so you know, these seeds are unfortunately very hardy as far as the amount of time that they're able to be kept viable. So as far as we know, water chestnut really doesn't have any known lookalikes. So if you're out and you see something like what's being shown here in these images, very likely it is most definitely water chestnut and not something else. So you shouldn't have to worry that you may confuse this plant with something else. So just like most any other invasive species, water chestnut can spread somewhat easily, and it's really important for people especially to be vigilant about cleaning our gear and just being mindful of how this plant can spread so that we know how to slow or stop that spread. So water chestnut can disperse vegetatively. So when pieces of the plant may break apart and fragments may attach to a boat or a trailer, then it has that ability to travel to a new location or to float downstream potentially. So if you are using a boat like a canoe or a kayak to search during the challenge, just make sure that you're checking your boat, during and certainly after you're done surveying in a water body. And if you find any plant parts or plant fragments, please make sure that you're picking them off and removing them prior to taking your boat somewhere else, because you could potentially be transporting, a plant that shouldn't be transported. And here in this image too, we can see, for a motorized boat, plant parts can wrap themselves around the propeller. They can get caught on the boat trailer. And again, if people aren't being mindful of this, they could just take their boat, go to another location, put it in, go about their day, and not realize that they may have just transported a species, potentially an invasive species, to a new location. Also, the nutlets of water chestnut can attach themselves to waterfowl. So you can actually see here in this image, this is a picture of a northern pintail and a nutlet, which may or may not be reproductively viable at this point. It's sort of hard to tell. Has attached itself to this animal, and now whenever it may travel to a new location, that nutlet will go with it, and it may come off and start a new population. So it's really important to make sure that, we're trying to get rid of as much of this plant in places as possible to make sure that we don't allow it to spread. So here's one of the photos that I alluded to earlier. Water chestnut can form these incredibly thick mats of vegetation. To me, this almost looks like a grassy lawn in someone's yard, but there's actually water underneath of this. And so when this happens, this is obviously, not a normal, nor is it natural for this water body to have something like this with this species. And so essentially, this water chestnut is choking out this water body and limiting the light and oxygen that would normally be able to be part of this ecosystem here in this water body. And so that's a big problem. But water chestnut can also outcompete native species for nutrients and space. And because our native wildlife is not adapted to use this plant for food, it really offers little nutritional value for our wildlife. But also, as you can see, just given the thickness of this particular infestation, and here in this image as well, there's really limited to no kind of recreation that you can do on this water body. So if you're, an angler, you can pretty much forget about fishing unless you can throw your line over in this section over here. Swimming, boating, all of that is going to be next to impossible. So any water body that's going to have this is going to be harmful not only to the environment, but certainly to people as well, where we're not going to be able to enjoy this space. So again, places to look when you're out searching for water chestnut, pretty much any freshwater setting. So ponds, lakes, and then also streams and rivers. And just, be mindful to look for anything. So in some cases, you may only find a single plant, and that's enough. One plant is we want to know about that. In other cases, you may find, kind of a small to medium-sized population where you see something like this. And in other cases, although I hope you don't see very much of this, this is a very intense and large infestation of water chestnut in Pennsylvania in Bucks County. This is Bradford Reservoir. This was noted in iMapInvasives a few years ago by a participant of the challenge. And yeah, this is just crazy. There had been, just for your reference, there had been treatment done at this location in the past. But unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure of all the details, but I don't believe that was able to continue. And so because of that, this population has certainly expanded. And I believe some of the connecting water bodies to this reservoir have actually, now been sightings where water chestnut has also been found. And I'm pretty certain that this is the source of where it's all coming from, which, as you can see, is just completely, choking out this water body. Okay, so I also want to mention, I mentioned this before, but I want to make sure I say it one more time. So a lot of you who will be part of the challenge, you will be looking for water chestnut in one or more places, and you may not end up finding anything. And that is completely fine, if not fantastic, because it's telling us that the places where you are searching don't have this species, this undesirable species that we don't want to have in our environment. And so it's really important to make sure that you are recording your absence information in iMapInvasives, and certainly, of course, recording any presence information that you find as well. So just know that both types of data are very valuable to be recording in IMAP. So I just want to talk a little bit about how you can go about reporting your findings, again, both presence and absence information. So there's the iMapInvasives mobile app. Kind of a newer option that we now have available is Survey 123, which is also a type of app that you can get on a phone or a tablet. And then also the platform iMapInvasives Online, which is available on any device, desktop, laptop, phone, or tablet. I'm going to spend most of my time during the training today talking about how to use the mobile app, because that is the simplest way to record information while you're out in the field, and probably the easiest way. But certainly the Survey 123 and the iMapInvasives Online are fine options to use as well if you would like to. But just want to also mention, in order to submit any data at all, you do need to have that login account, and it is free to get, and it's very easy to get. And so if you don't already have a login account, after today's training, please make sure that you go in and you request an account. And in order to do that, you can go to either imapinvasives.org or paimapinvasives.org. And this image here in the background is the Pennsylvania paimapinvasives.org website. And on both of those websites, there will be a login button near the top of the page. You can see the login button here on this one. And then from there, once you click on that button, it will show you a form that looks like this. And you just fill out that form and submit it. And you should get an email saying that an account has been created for you. And it's just going to ask you to confirm that account creation. And that email should be from NatureServe, which NatureServe is the organization that administers iMapInvasives at the national level. So just make sure that that email comes to you and that you confirm that account, and you'll be good to go. So another thing that's really important as far as this particular event with the challenge, you want to make sure that once you've got your IMAP account, that you join the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021 project. And the reason why this is important is it's going to allow you to tag your presence and absence information that you're reporting for this event. And that's going to allow me to go in and then query for that information to then compile the results from this event. So if your information isn't tagged to that project, it's not going to be part of the data analysis that I put together after all of this. So please make sure that you do join that project and you are tagging your information to it. So the way that you join the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge project for this year is if you log into iMapInvasives, and in the main menu in the upper left corner, which it looks like this, one of the options says projects. And if you choose projects, it'll open up a new page where there's a search box, and you just type in the name of the project and click on it when it shows up. And then in that profile page for the project, which you can see looks like this here in the background, there'll be text up in the upper right corner that says request to join project. And you can see that right here. So just make sure that you click on that request to join project. That will go through immediately. I will get an email notification letting me know that you are requesting to join. I will approve it as soon as I can, and you should get an email notification from me afterwards saying that you are now part of the project. Okay, so I do want to take some time here. Again, I'm going to spend most of my time talking about the nitty-gritty of how to use the iMapInvasives mobile app, and I will also then take a little bit of time, though not as much, and talk about the other data entry methods that we also have available. So to use the mobile app, you first need to download it onto your mobile device, and it's available for use on iPhones or on Android devices. So either the Apple App Store or Google Play Store is where you want to go, and type in the keyword iMapInvasives, and it should come right up for you when you search for it that way. So one thing to remember, and this is very important, prior to actually adding any new data with your mobile app, make sure that you set up your preferences first. Again, this is very important to do because it will kind of affect everything as far as what your mobile app can do for you and how you can use it. So to set up your preferences, you're going to go to the main menu in the mobile app, which is up here in the upper left corner. And you're going to select this information. And I know it looks like a lot here in my training, but it kind of prompts you and it goes through everything one by one. So it's pretty simple to go in and fill out this information. So we'll ask you for your jurisdiction, which is Pennsylvania. So you want to fill that in. It will ask you for your iMapInvasives login credentials. So it's going to ask you to fill in your email address and your iMapInvasives password. This next part is very important. You definitely want to make sure that you do this. So there's a button that says Retrieve IMAP List. So this button will essentially pull in the data that you have set up in your account profile in iMapInvasives Online and pull that into the mobile app so that all of the information that's set up in iMapInvasives Online is also available in your mobile app. So again, make sure that you are clicking that Retrieve IMAP List button, and that will pull in all the relevant information that you need. Make sure also that prior to setting up your preferences in your mobile app, that you are filling out your affiliated organization and that the project, the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021. Because once that's in your account profile online, then it will allow you to pull that information into your mobile app. And if you do things the other way around and you set up your preferences first without setting up your account online, you won't have your affiliated organization or your project show up in your mobile app. So you want to make sure that you do everything online first and then your mobile app second. Okay, so there's other things that's going to ask you as far as your preferences. So it's going to want to know how you want to view the track species list. So you can view just common names, you can view just scientific names, or you can view both at the same time. You can also create a custom species list, and this is optional, though I would recommend it for this particular event. So right now in the Pennsylvania IMAP program, we are tracking close to or maybe a little bit over 400 species. And so when you are recording a record in your mobile app and you have to select the species, it will have you scroll through all 400 basically to find the one that you want. And so it can take a little bit of time, but if you create a custom species list, it essentially allows you to only choose, one or more, maybe, however many you feel like, species that will then show up in your species list so that you aren't scrolling through a ton of species. And so for this one, since you're only searching for water chestnut, you could set up a custom species list that the only species that shows up is water chestnut. So it makes it pretty simple when you're choosing what species that you found. Also, you want to select your default project. Again, that's going to be that Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021. It's going to ask you to select your affiliated organization. Again, this needs to be set up in your iMapInvasives account online previous to you setting it up in the mobile app. And then there is some, actually, before I go on, I do want to mention, if you are not a member of any particular organization, we do have set up a special organization in IMAP called Pennsylvania Citizen Scientists. And this is kind of a catch-all for everyone else who's not part of a particular group, but is still contributing data to iMapInvasives. So please make sure that you are requesting to be part of this particular organization if you're not part of another group already. Okay, and then there is some other preferences you can choose to set up as well, such as the picture quality that you're taking on your device, whether or not you're saving photos to your device's library, and also how the base map view will look. So once you fill in all of that information, make sure that you save it. And then once you've done that, now you're ready to go in and add observation data. So once you get to this point, once you've got the app on your phone and it's already downloaded and everything's set up, you don't need an internet connection to actually record and capture data, which is really easy. So you can be out in the boonies and it doesn't matter because you can still record information with the mobile app. So to get started, you're going to click on the button on the home screen of the app that says Add Observation. And then from there, you're going to take a photo. And this is very important. Without a photo, we will not be able to review and confirm your record. And so essentially it will not be useful at that point. So please make sure that you are taking a photo and putting that in with your record. Right now, unfortunately, there is a limit that the mobile app has of just being able to include one image per record. So that's just the way it is right now. You can go in and take additional photos with your phone and then add them later on. If you're logged into iMapInvasives online, you can add them into your record. But just recording data with the mobile app, it will only allow you to store one photo per record. That is something that I believe is going to be changed in the future, but for right now, that is the way it's currently set up. So it's going to ask you to add in some details about your observation. So the species name, whether it was a presence or absence finding. Here you can see that the app actually calls it species detected or species not detected. And then the date of your observation, which is actually filled in automatically. So you don't need to fill that in. And then the location of your finding is automatically determined by your device's integrated GPS. So again, you don't need to worry about finding the location because the GPS should do that for you. I will say though, and I'm mentioning this just because it's happened a lot in the past, and I just want to make sure people realize. So in order to make sure that you're mapping the location that you want to map as accurately as possible with your app, make sure that you are standing, or if you're in a boat floating, as close as possible to the location of either the water chestnut that you're finding or the location that you surveyed and you are recording absence information. So make sure that you're as close to that location as possible, and that's going to allow the point to be mapped at that spot. Sometimes people will stand, 30 feet away or, however far away from the location that they're actually looking at. And so when they're mapping that point in IMAP, that point is 30 feet away, and that's not accurate. So we just want to make sure that you're mapping things as accurately as possible. It is going to ask you about the project. Make sure that you're selecting that Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021. The affiliated organization should fill in based on the information that you've got already set up in your mobile app's preferences. It will ask you for the time that you searched the area. So enter that time in minutes. And then there is a few other things that it will ask you to fill out. So if you are entering presence information, it will ask you for the size of the area and the distribution. And if you're filling in presence or absence information, there will still be an observation comments area that you can go in and provide additional details about whatever you think might be relevant to also include as part of your record. And that's it. You've just created a record. I know that felt like a lot as I'm going through here, but really when you're out in the field and you're filling it in, it goes by in a minute or less. So it really is no time at all to create a record. So make sure you're saving everything once you've gone through that process. And once you've saved your record, you'll notice that it will then pop up here on the home screen of your app. And if you create multiple records, you'll see multiple boxes show up on your screen, and each of those are individual records that you've created. So once you're ready to upload your information to iMapInvasives, which you can do at any time. I mean, if you start surveying this Thursday at the beginning of the challenge, you can start uploading information the same day. You have all of July and actually a little bit afterwards to record and submit your information. So feel free to do that at any time. Or if you'd like to wait and keep some of the records on your phone or tablet for a while, that's fine as well. But whenever you are ready to upload your data, you do need to be in an area that has an internet connection. That is required for that part. So once you're ready to upload, all you have to do is go to the main menu and choose select all, and that will put a checkbox next to each of the boxes that you have set up for the records that you've created. In this case, there's only one record, so there's just one checkbox here. And then once you've got everything checked, you go back to the main menu and you choose upload selected. And after you choose that, you should notice that your records will disappear from the home screen of your mobile app. And that's good. They're supposed to. That means that they've successfully uploaded into the iMapInvasives database online. If for whatever reason you notice that your data remains on the home screen of your app, that just means something didn't go quite right with the upload, and you just need to try going through that upload process again. If you have any trouble, just check that you do have an internet connection, because most likely that's the issue. But if you find that you're connected and you're still having trouble, just reach out to me via email and we'll work together to see what the issue might be. But generally when people have issues with that, it's just because the internet connection isn't there. So just make sure that you've got Wi-Fi. Okay, so I do also want to mention a little bit about the other ways that you can record data. So Survey123 is another application that you can have on your phone or tablet. And this is actually a product that was created by Esri, which they create mapping software. And what NatureServe did was take Survey123 and develop a form that is centric to the data that is collected in iMapInvasives and allow that form to be kind of incorporated into a Survey123 app so that you can use Survey123 and record data in iMapInvasives. I just used it for the first time a few weeks ago, and it's pretty slick. It takes a little bit longer to create a record than the mobile app does, but not a terrible amount of time longer, I would say. But one of the nice parts about Survey123, in addition to the mobile app, that it doesn't require an internet connection. But another thing that's really handy, especially for the challenge, is if you're out and you're surveying an entire water body, for example, you can actually use Survey123 to draw a polygon around that entire area that you searched. Whereas with the mobile application, the iMapInvasives mobile app, that is only able to capture point data. So the Survey123 has a bit of an advantage over the mobile app in that it can also record not only point information, but also polygons as well. So if you're interested in using Survey123, I would encourage you to maybe check it out. And this is a good reason to start using it and see if you like it. There is a setup guide that's available that will tell you more how to use the Survey123 app and how to access those data-centric fields that are relevant to iMapInvasives. And just to mention, everyone on today's training will receive a copy of this story map that I'm using for my training. So you'll be able to have access to this link and some other links that I've got in here that you can check out this setup guide at your convenience. So if you do have any questions after you do check out the setup guide about Survey123, and you know maybe need a little bit more help or just more information, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk if you need to. And then finally, the online database. You can use that to record presence and absence information as well. So in this story map, I've got two videos. This video shows how to enter presence information, and this video shows how to enter not detected or absence information. So again, once I send out a link to the story map, you'll be able to watch these videos, and you can choose to enter data that way if you would like. Okay, so we've got through the identification of water chestnut and we've gotten through the data entry. Now let's talk about what happens after the challenge is over. So again, the challenge will begin this Thursday, July 1st, and it will end on July 31st. After July 31st, all participants will have till August 15th to enter your presence and absence information into iMapInvasives. So again, if you've got some lingering records on your mobile app or Survey123 and you just haven't uploaded them yet, you will have a little bit of extra time into August to make sure that you submit everything. Again, I guess I can't say this enough, but just make sure that you are tagging your data to that Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge 2021 project. So after August 15th, I will be putting together a data analysis of all of the information that was collected by all of you, the participants in this event. And that analysis will include information on any new water chestnut infestations that were found, the names of the water bodies that may require new or continued treatment efforts. Again, trying to get the word out about some of these places that really do need some kind of management done. And also the areas that are thankfully free of water chestnut. So any absence information that gets recorded will be part of that analysis as well. And then all of you participants, as well as all of our registered users in iMapInvasives, which currently is around 1,700 people, will receive a copy of that analysis, and it will also be posted on our website. So if you're interested, there is actually the analysis that I put together for last year's event. If you'd like to check that out, there is a link to that document here in the story map that you can review that. And here's just some images that were taken from last year's event of populations of water chestnut that were found in different parts of Pennsylvania. Okay, now for the fun part. So prizes. There is going to be prizes that are awarded to 5 individuals who will be randomly selected as the winners of this year's Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge. So to qualify as a prize winner, here's what you have to do. You have to survey at least 5 or more water bodies in Pennsylvania for water chestnut and record either your presence or absence findings into iMapInvasives and tagged under that project. And for larger water bodies or for different sections of a stream or a river, you can actually survey some of those other parts of that water body because it is so big. And that will also count towards your tally of trying to get at least up to 5 different places. Certainly more than 5 is fantastic, but that is the minimum in order to qualify as a prize winner. Just want to mention, in case anyone's wondering, you don't actually need to find water chestnut in order to qualify as a prize winner. I just want to make sure that people realize that I appreciate you going out and just trying and just, having the species on your radar and just looking for it. And even if you don't find it, that's okay, because you just might be in an area that doesn't have it. And again, that's a really good thing. We want to try to find places that are free and clear of this species because that's a good thing. So each of the 5 people who are selected as prize winners will receive the following prizes. So there's an outdoor day pack that you can use to go out hiking or be on your boat or whatever you want to do. A gift card to REI, an iMapInvasives stainless steel water bottle, and a hard copy of the Pennsylvania's Field Guide to Aquatic Invasive Species. And I actually just ordered the day packs yesterday, and they're all a little different. So they will vary by brand and color and size, but this is one of them. This is one of the day packs that was ordered. So that's the prize package. That's what you have to do to qualify. So that's everything about the actual event, but I do want to, before I wrap up, I want to mention one other event that's coming up now. It's actually in its 13th year, is a water chestnut pooling event that you can take part in this summer. So in eastern Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania, the Bucks County Conservation District will be hosting its annual Paddle with a Purpose. And it invites anyone who's interested to come out as a volunteer to Lake Towhee and to hand pull the water chestnut that is unfortunately been invading that lake for some time. And you can participate either from the shore, or there are opportunities to go out in a boat. You can either bring your own boat, or DCNR does provide some boats for some people. Here's a map of where Lake Towhee is. So I'll just kind of zoom in and you can see the lake here. It's right kind of next to Lake Nockamixon, but it is in near Quakertown. It's in kind of the central part of Bucks County. Here is where it's located. Okay. So the dates for Paddle with a Purpose this year are the end of July 28, 29, and 30. It's a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Here's the address, and lunches, gloves, and heavy-duty trash bags are provided for anyone who participates and pre-registers. So again, you can bring your own boat if you have it, or if you pre-register early. And I would say, register now if you don't have your own boat and you hope to be able to use a boat that's provided by DCNR. So in this story map, there is a link that you can register for this event if you're interested. You can register for 1 day, 2 days, or all 3, depending on what you want to do. You can also send an email to Megan Rogales. She is the Bucks County Conservation District Watershed Specialist, and she's the person who has been spearheading this event pretty much ever since it started. And her email address is here. It's mrogales@bucksccd.org. And I will mention, I participated in the Paddle with a Purpose a few years ago, and I had a wonderful time. It was, middle of July. It was really hot, So it was really good to get out on a boat and be able to get a little wet that day. But it also was incredibly satisfying to be able to, just be one part of a larger team that was out pooling this invasive plants, which I had actually never seen before in person until I came in and I participated in this event. And so it was really neat to actually be able to finally see it. But I mean, I would say, if you're local to the Bucks County area, certainly, check this out. And even if you're not, it's a great reason to travel into southeastern Pennsylvania and take part in this event. And they certainly appreciate any and all volunteers that they get. So with that, I will wrap things up. It looks like I have about 10 minutes left. If there are any questions, we can go over those now. And Kirsten, maybe if you want to help out and let me know if there's any questions that I can answer, we can do it that way.
Yes, there's one question that I answered from Kathleen Kimball, but I'd like you to answer it for everyone in case they didn't see it in the chat. Her question is, if we find water chestnut on a body of water and create a record for it, can we then pull the plant to help keep it from spreading?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And actually, in the past, other people who have participated in this event have actually kind of gone above and beyond and have found, like medium-sized populations that they themselves have gone and pooled. And then in that case, and I didn't mention this in my training, but in case you're pooling a lot, you can actually go in and record a treatment effort in imap to recognize that you went in and really did something, which is wonderful. That is certainly encouraged, though not part of this event necessarily, but if you have the gumption and the time and the ability to go out and pool some of these plants, that would be wonderful. But just knowing that they were at least there on the day that you found them is going to be helpful because it gives us an idea of where this plant is in the state. So yes, feel free to pool any that you find. And then also there is, I believe, more information, but I'll just try to mention it here too, as far as proper disposal. So a lot of times people will put the plants in these heavy duty trash bags, and they will, I believe, incinerate them, or I'm not sure if it's okay or not to just put them in the regular trash. You might need to check with, some people on that in your local area. But I think in other places, and I think what they do at Lake Tohi is they get all the plants that have been pooled, they put them in a big pickup truck and they drive to another location where the plants will not have the ability to go back, at least not easily, into the water, and they will essentially just compost in another area. So if you're taking it to a place that's far enough away that it doesn't have that chance to re-enter the water body and just compost, that should be fine as well.
I had mentioned also if you're in public lands like a state park or forest or something like that, you should probably notify the land manager that you have found this, and because you could coordinate with them. I mean, especially if it's a larger infestation, you could be part of a larger effort to eradicate that species from the water body. And if it's on private property, you need to tell the landowner that you're doing this because technically they own all the plants on their property, and if you're pulling it, not assuming you got permission to survey there in the first place, I don't know that they would be that concerned about it, but you never know. So just be sure to talk to the people that own the land or manage it, to let them know what you're doing.
Yeah, all good advice. I agree.
Let's see. Oh, and we just got two more questions. If we see water chestnut after the end of July, can we still record it in the Water Chestnut Chasers Challenge in 2021? Or should we just record it in iMapInvasives, but not the challenge project?
Yes, the latter. So the window of time, at least for this event, is July 1 to July 31. But please, if you are, seeing water chestnut outside of the challenge window timeframe, please record it in IMAP, because even though it won't necessarily be part of the data analysis that we put together, it's still really important information to include. And something else I didn't mention in the training, but I'll mention here because I think it's relevant to this question, is a lot of registered users have email alerts set up in IMAP. So any new findings, especially important species like water chestnut, someone may have an email alert set up that they want to be notified when a new finding comes through and is confirmed. And so when you're reporting data for this particular species, you're helping to notify other people about that finding. So, certainly the purpose here we're talking about is to report for the purposes of the challenge, but overall, we're really trying to make sure that we're keeping as many people in the loop as possible across the state about where this species is being found. So for this, particular event, if you're finding it past July 31st, don't tag it to that project, but still report it to IMAP.
And one last question here from Adele. There is word that the Penn State Arboretum is growing this species deliberately in its ornamental ponds. Should we take some action to get them to remove it?
Yeah, so I actually recently got this question, and I had been in touch with someone who I know at Penn State, and he said he was going to talk to one of the people that works at the Arboretum about it. And I actually haven't heard back from him yet, so this is a good reason for me to reach out to him again. But I mean, I would say if you, this person who's asking this question, if you know someone at the Arboretum who works there and can inquire about it with them, you know, go for it. I mean, whoever gets the answer first, it doesn't really matter. I'm happy to share that information once I get it. But I mean, if that really is true, that's problematic as far as I'm concerned, because I would hope that Penn State isn't purposely planting an invasive species that could potentially spread. I don't know for sure if it is or not. I haven't seen it myself, but hopefully, we can get to the bottom of that. So that's a good question to, hopefully get an answer to soon.
So that's all the questions from the chat. And guess I'll just say good luck out there. Have fun. And thank you so much for taking this on and being part of this with us. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you all so much. I mean, we wouldn't be able to have this event if it wasn't for volunteer participants like each of you. And so we really appreciate your time and your passion, because I know a lot of people are really passionate about this issue of invasive species. And so I certainly share that passion with you, and I value the time and effort that needs to be put in to really, do something about this issue. So thanks to everyone. Today's training was recorded, so I will be sharing out that recording as soon as I have it available to share. And also a copy of the story map that I used for my training today will be sent out as well. So in case anyone has any other questions after the training is over today, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is here on the screen, ajewett@paconserve.org. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me right now. And again, I also wish everyone good luck starting on Thursday. So thanks, everybody.